Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
What started as a very evenly matched season has suddenly turned lopsided. A hat trick of wins for David Gaspers sets him up with the ability to clinch the championship at today's race. Donington Park's relatively flat curbs are probably a welcome sight compared to last week's nightmare at Charlotte, and should hopefully provide less chaos for the drivers. But while Lindhoff might have lacked pace compared to Gaspers in previous rounds, David has not been without his share of mistakes this season. We'll see if he can avoid his own pitfalls to seal it up as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Steph, the only way I think we could get much more British than a racetrack at a castle is if all the cars came with tea today.
Built into the rolling terrain just outside East Midlands Airport, Donington Park was opened in 1931. 12 turns are situated around this 2.5 mile long track, which is most known for the big elevation changes and sweeping turns. Donington Park, however, still has that old school vibe to it, as the main part of this track still stands as it did back in the 1930s and 40s. The nature of this track allows for great racing and also close races, but might induce some chaos, especially with tail-happy cars like the Spec Racer 4. But let us talk you now a lap around Donington Park with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Amjad Yaman in the GSRC MX-5, so let's do a lap around Donington. Heading down the front stretch towards Redgate, you'll want to drift the car off to the left, but be careful because cars exiting the pits are dumped right into the racing line, and it is possible to get tangled up with them. You want a late apex this first corner, which will be a very popular place for guys trying to overtake. After that, hug the right side of the track as it swings down into the crater curves. That's because ideally you want to get the widest entry into the left-hander for the best line into the old hairpin. This is a corner that sometimes invites passes, but it tends to be very tricky to execute. Expect a lot of dirt to be dragged on course from cars drifting wide around here. As we go under Starkey's Bridge, we climb back uphill, and once again, swinging the car wide will help you line up the following corner. McLean's has a frustrating crest, and the turn gets tighter on exit. It's very tough to nail the apex. From there, it's a short burst to Coppice, which you'll see drivers think about making a pass into, but very few actually execute it. The totally blind apex makes this another turn that's difficult to be consistent with, and the long, wide-open exit means you'll be flat to the floor for quite a while, so the ability to get on the power early will be valuable. Now we're on Starkey Straight, which has these fun little dips in the track, leading straight into the braking for the S's. Anyone trying to pass here increases the risk of a cut course penalty, so it might be wiser to wait for the next couple of hairpins. That doesn't mean drivers won't still force two wide situations into that chicane. Now come the slow and annoying hairpins. First up is Melbourne, which is a pretty straightforward case of squaring off the exit and getting a decent launch. Drivers running a single monitor will have a pretty hard time getting the apex right though. Then, you'll switch sides and look for the curbs to start lining up Goddards. There's an awkward rise at the entry to the corner, making it tough to get the car to turn in. Once you feel safe putting the power down, get on the gas, straighten the car out, and hope that you accelerated early enough to protect yourself from a pass. But as we cross the line, we've now finished a lap around Donington.
There's a lap around Donington Park in the GSRC MX-5. Well, unfortunately, Amjad did not have the SRF prepped in time, and he might have had it prepped in time if he contacted Southeast Spec Racer. They're a full-service Spec Racer Ford prep shop located in Daytona Beach, Florida, offering a fleet of race-ready SRFs and the driver coaching to go with it. SSR is your one-stop shop for all things spec. They also offer transportation and storage, parts, and advice. You can find them at southeastspecracer.com. Taking a look at the points with this being the penultimate round, well, it's a pretty clear situation because there's no drop points on hand for Gaspers. That means that Henrik Lindhoff, all he has to do is outscore Gaspers by 21 points. You can see he's 120 back. Well, he can't tie Gaspers because Gaspers clearly will have more wins this season since Lindhoff has none so far. Otherwise, behind him, Daniel Sadro has been climbing steadily with good result after good result. He's only 4 points back from Lindhoff. And then Steve Elson stays where he is. Kane Halliburton, unfortunately, did not show and drops down 3 positions due to last week's no-show. What about the Spec 2 Championship? From what I've seen, I think that also is pretty straightforward this season.
Well, Joe, in the Spec Racer, in the Spec 2 class at the front, it's nothing new in the West here. Alejandro Leiro once again first, or still first, by 76 points over Bob Pern. Ed Doherty sits in third, 108 points already behind your Spec 2 leader, Jeff Cantor. He is close though, 12 points behind Ed Doherty, and Tom Gradwell also not too far behind in fifth, only 134 points behind your leader in Leiro. And yeah, as you said, I'm starting to run out of things to say apart from it's Groundhog Day at the front.
Yeah, pretty much. His first podium of the season for Alejandro at last race. Phenomenal result from him. Taking a look at the race details here for this round. As I mentioned, the penultimate round out here, and they have an open setup on the cars. Now, there's not a lot you can do to tweak them, and it's a pretty friendly community, to be honest. Drivers, even before this race, were sharing setups with one another to try to help. It's mostly down to the driver. They will have a fuel stop during this race. The fuel cells in real life are big enough that usually every race they have no stops. But here in the sim, they've made them smaller so that they are forced to take at least one strategic stop to make the race a little bit more interesting. The points are rationed from first to last place so that it stays even no matter how many drivers show up. But that said, they do keep the same amount of points for the podium finishers, 100 for a win, 90 for second, 83 for third. They also give out penalty points if you rack up too many incidents, and they have one spare car if you have any sort of damage. There's a lot of runoff area around this track, so we expect most damage will come from contact with another car. Now, today's race is, of course, broadcast on the iRacing Esports Network. And if you're enjoying this season, which is, I believe, the first one that they've had for the Weekend Warriors on IESN, we highly encourage you to subscribe. All you got to do that is click the big red button that says subscribe, and then all the races from IESN will show up in your YouTube feed. Now, here in the virtual world, transporting your SRF to locales literally all over the globe is as easy as clicking your mouse. But in the real world, it's a lot more involved for those who haul vehicles state to state. The last thing you want to worry about is having to fill out all kinds of messy paperwork for the car inspections and then keep them in order on the road as well. There's great news if you're looking to do away with those stacks of paper. Inspect a Ride is the fastest way to conduct a vehicle inspection and create reports. You can save time, eliminate paper, keep better inspection records, and simplify your life, all from your iPhone, iPad, or Android phone or tablet. You can find out more at inspectoride.com/iRacing, where you can even find a free trial, completely free trial, to find out if Inspector Ride is right for you. So check it out. Once again, that address where you can get that free trial is inspectoride.com/iRacing. Qualifying is currently happening out on the track, and it's been a decent split between Gasper, or well, it was between Lindhoff and the rest of the field in warm-up, but now it's between Gaspers and the rest of the field. Jerry McAreevy, Steph, a whole 3/10 behind.
Yeah, and I'm honestly surprised about Lindhoff right now. He just crossed the start-finish line to get on his fast lap, and he's right now 2 full seconds off pace of his practice lap. So either he just can't find a groove right now, or he's just pushing way too much in this qualifying to get his lap time in.
And the bad news for him, remember, Sadro only 2 points behind him at the moment in the championship. He's way up the order, starting on the podium on row 2 there with his number 51. Right now we're on board with Lindhoff, the Scandinavian, about halfway through his lap, up and over the tricky corner of McLean's and towards Coppice. This track, at least in the GP version, seems like it's got a few good passing zones. But you talked about the swervy nature of this car, especially lifting off the throttle. What are some of the spots that you think those drivers really be struggling with losing control?
Well, weirdly enough, the most trouble I've seen is coming up to Fogarty right now, right here. Because Fogarty, it's a fast S, it doesn't require a lot of braking, as Lero goes way off there. The thing is, the drivers are going quite aggressive through Fogarty, and that then enables them to hit the bumps on the inside of the second apex and spin out. So we might have to keep an eye on Fogarty, especially because it is an overtaking point here. Then obviously you have Craner curves and Old Hairpin at the bottom of that complex down the hill. And then maybe we see some problems in McLean's because of how the track falls away to the outside there at the exit.
Ooh, and you may have noticed on the screen that even though we're riding on board with Sadro, who abandons his lap, Antonio Reis overtakes him for third, puts himself on to, actually he was on the second row, he just jumped up one position, the number 77, currently actually riding just ahead of Flavio Saturnino, maybe giving him a little bit of a tow in these final minutes, with about laps looking at 145 for the fastest drivers. We are looking at a couple more laps available for anyone, and a big slide from Saturnino, certainly not going to help him there. This is Stevie Ray, the Texas driver, sitting in 7th. This seems to be one of the better tracks. He's been a little bit up and down, it seems, in qualifying this season, Stevie Ray.
Yeah, he isn't that confident in pushing so hard, I think, with this car. Or in general, it's just probably how his driving style is. So you can be a bit up and down depending on how the track suits your driving style. But hey, it's always great to see Stevie Ray up at the top of the boards, or towards the top of the board.
Yep, a little bit of a slide through McLean, certainly not going to help there. Meanwhile, our pole sitter in the Spec 2 race is Alejandro Lero, and Dominic Bureau is not that far behind him, only 2/10 back and only 1 position back. So maybe we'll get a good fight for that Spec 2 lead today. In fact, Dominique is coming back out on the track. The Canadian just getting on his warm-up lap for the moment.
Yeah, it does seem so that Leroy is also struggling here a little bit. He's right now half a second off his own time. He gave his teammate Lindoff a boost, who just put in a 146.7, putting himself to 9th place. With boost, I obviously mean draft. So yeah, we will have to wait and see if Leroy is able to make his statement put into place for qualifying here.
Right in on board with Jerry McAreevy. He's currently the outside of the front row as he whips his way around Melbourne. A little bit too far back from Sadro really to get much of a draft, although it might be helping just slightly. Up to Goddard's the last hairpin. Sadro's going to cross the line. Let's see if he improves his time from 4th. And nope, he's also on an out lap. McAreevy, on the other hand, does not count his last lap either.
Very interesting here. A lot of people getting that off track. Obviously, it's quite easy, especially outside of turn 1. As we saw there on screen, you can quite easily get too far to the outside and get that off track. It's also quite easy here, old hairpin. Very easy. Probably a lot of people here this stream know that feeling, going a bit too wide here and giving yourself that damn 1x.
Riding on board with Bertoni, but I'm curious about Miroslav Juracek, although I think he might be on an out lap right now. As yes, indeed, that was an out lap for him. He's sitting in 5th, so he could spoil the party for these top drivers. Had a podium last week as well, although might have been a bit of a surprise for him, considering the mistakes that he had late in the race that could have cost him. Lucked out a little bit with multiple drivers also running afoul of problems and handing away a good position. 12 seconds left on the clock, so I think we're going to see the first of our drivers to see the checkered flag. Mark Geehan going to be the first of those, down in 19th in the 225. Let's see what the green and black machine has got. He's got nothing. He's going into the pits.
Right behind him, though, Antonio Rees. He's going through Goddard's right now. Sitting in 3rd right now. Let's see what he can do as he goes very slow over the start-finish line. That's
not going to be a good lap for him. He's done for the day in qualifying, at least. Daniel Sadro, however, a 146.1. That's his fastest lap, but it does not improve. No, it does improve his position. He goes up to 3rd with that. Gasper's going to be the next one to cross the line. And that is also his fastest lap, a 45.7, a 10th faster, putting almost half a second between himself and McAreevy.
Yeah, and quite impressive. Gokul Ituarte just got over the line, puts himself into 5th. But we will have Miroslav Juracek soon going over the line, trying to get back that top 5 position, as we look currently at Jason Perry there, the white car. 97 going over the line. Let's see what he puts in. 46.6. Oh, 7th place there for him.
Oh, nice jump up. That's just behind Miroslav Juracek, who also finds his fastest lap at the last attempt, but unfortunately does not get him faster than Gorka Iterade. Alejandro Lero is our fastest Spec 2 driver, and he goes even faster with a 46.6. which is just shy of his teammate, Henrik Lindoff, and also does not improve his position, but he's got a whole 3/10 over
No. Lero put himself into 7th place there.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes.
That darn delay on our timing and scoring. I have to wait for it to jump up, and it caught me out. Wow, great job from Lero to get himself well up the order once again. Antonio Rees, I think we saw cross the line already, so this lap should not count for Antonio. And in fact, he slows it down. So let's go through our starting grid here for the penultimate round. David Gaspers is going to be on the pole once again, looking very good to try and clinch the championship today. Jerry McAreevy, going to see what he can do with him. He'll start in 2nd position. Daniel Sadro with P3 in the championship starts P3 on the grid. Antonio Reis will be 4th with Gorka Iturrate in 5th. Miroslav Juracek in P6 when the green flag drops. Alejandro Lero starts in the pole of the Spec 2 race with 7th overall. Jason Perry gets bumped down to 8th with Alejandro's final lap. James Tabor will be 9th, and Stevie Ray rounds out our top 10.
Henrik Lindhoff, choosing to help his teammate, sits in 11th place. Alongside him will be lining up Steven Elson. Dominic Burrow and Edward Doherty are 12th and 13th, 13th and 14th, or 2nd and 3rd in Spec 2 class. Flavio Saturnino in 15th, Michael Shaw 16th, Andres Bertoni 17th, Fred Desai 18th, and Mark Gehan in 19th. Rounding out your top 20 will be Jim McChill.
Bob Kern will be 21st, Chris Murakami 22nd. Then it's Adam Bradshaw in 23rd. That's a horrible qualifying for Bradshaw. Usually it's a little farther up. Jeff Cantor will be P24. Then it's Tom Gradwell behind him in 25th. Next to him in that row will be John Dion in 26th. Edgar Sancinelli starts 27th with Ian Wilson 28th. And all 29 cars managed to get lap times in qualifying. Matt Solblum rounds out the field. Waiting for the rest of them to grid up. Thankfully, it's a short pace lap here in iRacing on Donington. All they have to do is work their way through the Fogarty S's, then through the Melbourne hairpin and around the Goddard's hairpin. And we go racing for 40 minutes. Look at that string of SRFs all ready to go here behind the roof pace car. Bunch of brilliant colors, all looking to make this an interesting race. Not too terribly long of a lap around here, Steph. Do you think lap traffic will be an issue at all?
It might as well be. We saw quite a spread field in times, ranging from 45s to 49s. So we might see some traffic at the later stages of this race, but because of how wide this track is, I don't think that we will see much trouble with lap traffic.
Coming around Melbourne, should see some pass attempts into here, and well, if they don't get it done, maybe a crossover to try and see if they can get the speed up towards Goddard's. And then that's your last opportunity before you come to the line. There's that pit entry as well, which can be a bit tricky trying to enter in, especially if you have to cut all the way across the track. Will that cause some problems? We'll find out soon. Green flag is out. David Gaspers gets on the loud pedal, but we're getting some 3 wide behind them. Sadro with a horrible start. Antonio Reis stretching away with Gorka Iturrate. Coming up the inside, we get a car spinning off to the inside. We'll get to that in a little bit. It is clinching together as they almost bang doors between Reis and Iturrate. Gorka comes away with 3rd place as they head down the hill.
Yeah, it seemed like a bit of a stutter start. Some people trying to jump the start there and not really working out, having to brake and backing up the whole field behind them. But everything a bit clean so far, apart from that car spinning out. A lot of people going wide there at the old hairpin, but that is pretty much a normal sight first lap here.
Up towards McLean's already. McAreevy started to challenge on Gaspers, but can't quite get anything done at that blind crest. Then you've got Gorka Iturrate trying to hold off Daniel Sadro. Coming up to Coppice, you can see a little bit of side-by-side battling behind them. Jason Perry fending off the likes of Lero. And they work their way down the very fast Starkey Straight now towards the Fogarty S's.
In the background at McLean's, you saw, bit of a touch there between Lero and Perry, but in the background you saw it, McLean's somewhat spinning. That was Steven Elson having a bit of a self-spin there. No harm, no foul, but he is at the very back of your field.
Wow, look at the cars getting clogged up back here. This is Lero leading his teammate Henrik Lindhoff, making progress forward, and then that's Tabor on the side of Saturnino, as they're going 2 by 2 by 2. Stevie Ray and Andre Bertoni as well trying to challenge. They start to single file out, but it's not completely straight, as they've got Bertoni fending off the likes of Dominic Burrow. Finally, we complete the first lap. So I think this was Geehan that had a problem on the replay. Let's take a look.
Yeah, let's have a look what happened there. I honestly didn't catch it, only at the very end, taking him offline.
He's completely straight here. Oh, it's a checkup.
And that checkup that I talked about caught him out there, as it looks like. Yeah, really don't know what happened there. I think some people just tried to get out of that 4 wide situation that we had at the start, or the beginning of the field rather. So that just seems like he got caught out by that.
And unfortunately for Mark, he had enough damage that he elected to take a tow into the pit, so he's already gone a lap down. In fact, I think he's exited the race. We're back up with the leaders. McAreevy close behind Gaspers, pulling about a second gap over third place Iterate. As we watch on board the DH driver who's leading the championship and the race, being challenged quite heavily by the UKNI driver.
Oh, Juricek there with a missed shift. Or a slowdown, actually. That's one heck of a slowdown there, obviously, on the second lap. Long slowdown for him, still not up to speed. Now he is again.
And that's as he gets swamped by a whole bunch of cars. He's still giving time back. Something's wrong there. We'll get back to that in a bit, but he's dropping all the way to the back of the field, essentially. Meanwhile, look at all the cars still racing side by side. Fred Desai and Chris Murakami challenging each other in a drag race down to the first corner. Redgate going to give a chance for Murakami to outbrake him, but he's a little bit behind the likes of Desai. He goes in deep. Is it too deep? Can he power it off the corner? Oh, he's a little bit wide, and this allows Fred Desai to start to regain some momentum. But how brave is he heading up to the old hairpin? Backs out of it.
Some bad news for Juricek. On the front stretch, he was still giving way to that penalty. He had it at the inside of Coppice there, and he then decided to take a tow.
Something must have been wrong there. We'll ask him later. Oh, as we ride on board with Bradshaw making contact with Desai, who's still fighting with the likes of Jim McGill, almost banging wheels as they come into Coppice. Hopefully the touch that we saw from Bradshaw didn't damage his suspension.
Yeah, it seems like he's performing normally right now. Update on Juricek, he just decided to call it a day, so yeah, it seems like there was something more going on than just a slowdown.
There was Elson overtaking the likes of Bob Kern beautifully. And now he's going to get to witness one in front of him, potentially, because Bradshaw to the inside of Desai through Melbourne. Can he get the power down off the corner? He tries to, but the momentum looks like it is in favor of Fred Desai. Breaking down into Goddard's. He's got the inside line. Will it swing back? Did Bradshaw learn anything from that maneuver? Yes, he did. Look at him come back at him.
Yeah, Goddard's a bit of a weird turn because you might think it's the preferred line on the inside, but it's actually the outside line here as Bradshaw perfectly comes back and takes back the 18th position. But Fred Desai yet again coming back. What a battle between those two.
And quite a bit ago, we had a problem between Sadro and Iterate that allowed Antonio Reese to sneak into third place. That is pretty long ago, as Gorka having problems in the McLean's now gives way to Daniel Sadro, who finds his way into fourth. All this happening in front of Jason Perry, who's starting to gain time with all this battling back and forth.
Yeah, and Jason Perry, he's really looking strong right now, or rather safe, sorry. Just doing his own race, driving away from Lero. Not really getting attacked by him, and ever so slightly getting closer to the guys in front because they're making so many mistakes.
Meanwhile, up at the lead, McAreevy's been holding right behind Gaspers for a little bit. This is starting to make me wonder, is this some fuel saving that we're watching?
Might as well be, might as well be. I think you can save quite a bit of fuel here because of the nature of this track. So McAreevy, he might as well be saving fuel behind.
We got a battle between Lero and Perry. Perry fending off because he had a bad run through Fogarty. And our leader in the Spec 2 looking to the inside now as they come across the line down towards Redgate. Perry does not defend, lets him by. Maybe sizing him up for a better run down the hill through the Craner curves. I think that's exactly what's happening because look at him start to get up beside him once again.
And now he has the inside line for Old Hairpin. Will he use it? Yes, he does it and goes past again, but now he has to be careful because Lero has the preferred line. And Perry with a little bit of a slide, so Lero easily passed yet again for 6th position.
Fierce stuff between these two drivers, and Lero now all the way up to P6 despite being a Spec 2 driver. I look forward to him fighting for Pro Championship points next season once he gets promoted, because at this point I think it's highly unlikely that he won't get promoted. Still being hounded by the likes of Perry as they come to the Starkey Straight now. I don't think he's close enough to send one into the chicane.
And while all of this happened, we missed the pass on Steve Elson on Adam Bradshaw quite a bit ago. And Steve Elson is now working on Jim McGill here into Fogarty and easily makes that pass there on Jim.
Brave stuff trying to send it in there. And meanwhile, don't forget Adam Bradshaw, who seemed to have a bit of a bad qualifying coming forward.
McAreevy in Goddard's nearly losing his car there a bit too fast onto the apex there. And yeah, quite lucky to get away with not a spin there as we go on board onto the replay there.
Let's watch the hands. It's going to saw back and forth a lot. Woo-hoo-hoo. Good catch. I've found this car one of the hardest to really catch once you get to a certain point in the slide. You can definitely slide it around, but I don't know about you. It seems like once you go over a certain point, as Saturnino is around, and I think this is outside of Redgate.
Yes, it is. Let's see what happened there as we go into replay. Seems like just oversteer there. Yeah, just goes too wide and then on the grass loses the car.
Yep, not a lot of grip on the brown and green stuff, and Saturnino, because of that, drops down to 19th. Look ahead of him, though, because Bradshaw and McGill going at it now as they almost come together, breaking into McLean's. Bradshaw trying to go the long way around, and I think he's got it. That's going to lose even one more for McGill, because Saturnino taking advantage of it. 2 spots in one corner.
Yeah, and Bob Kern is also thinking about it. Around the outside now here at Coppice. Let's see if he can get a run. No, he can't, but now he's under pressure from Fred Desai, who is now side by side with him.
Oh, and poor McGill's been blinking quite a bit. Because of that, both cars electing to try and take this single file through Fogarty just to try and keep from running into the back of McGill in case he blinked.
Ahead though, Saturnino tries to overtake Bradshaw, goes a bit too wide at the apex of Melbourne. Way, what a slide there from Saturnino. Could enter a drift competition with that. And is still side by side with Bradshaw going into Goddard's now. Has the inside line. Once again breaks way late. Way wide on the apex. Let's see if Bradshaw can come back here.
Leaving a trail of rubber behind him. Saturnino somehow powers off the corner and keeps Bradshaw behind down towards Redgate. Now, let's stay with this battle because this is a lot more interesting, but I just want to report that McAreevy, since his error, has dropped back over half a tenth behind Gaspers. It seems like he was certainly riding the coattails of the DH driver, but yeah, goodness, this is getting intense.
Bradshaw seemed like he lost a bit of track where he was on track, going with all 4 wheels on the grass, and Saturnino way wide.
Making his own circuit here as he almost comes back into the side of Adam Bradshaw. Bradshaw knows he's got the speed. We've seen him try and use this outside line before. Can he do it again? He's finding grip over the crest, but it's not enough grip. Saturnino fending him off as they come to another crest in the form of Coppice. And finally, he has to give it up.
Bradshaw has to be careful now, but McGill behind. But no, McGill decides to stay behind. Probably he knows about his internet problems.
Yeah, I'm sure he's seeing some blinking cars on his end, which is always a big worry. Now, as that was happening, Stevie Ray found himself up to... Well, he was in ninth. Did something happen here?
Yeah, I just saw these guys being 3 wide through Melbourne. I don't know what happened there, though.
That's Bertoni that he was side by side in the paint car. And Stevie Ray, in traditional fashion, thinks that the pit window is open, so he takes it at the first opportunity. He's joined by Steve Elson.
All right, so 13 minutes. The fuel window is already open. That's quite early for the series.
Well, that gives us a frame of reference for the others.
Oh,
Now,
Saturnino once again, turn 1. Way out of sync with his back. And once again able to save it, but loses the position to Bradshaw, maybe even McGill. Let's see. No, he elects to stay behind.
Well, and that's a beautiful sight as far as Adam Bradshaw is concerned, because with all that battling that he's had, Sadro has yet another off. Lost 2 positions out of that one. Let's watch from on board. Wow.
We're over here.
Big snap.
Wow.
I'm impressed he even caught that, because that was incredibly sudden.
Yeah, a bit too much on the inside curb there. Gives him a little bit of a slide, and he tries to correct it, overcorrects it, and yeah, what a save there from Sadro through the gravel trap.
3 positions down for him because of that. Jason Perry's loving this race. He started in 8th. He's now sitting in 5th. Still working on Alejandro Lero, who is right ahead of him. He's been having quite a bit of a battle with the Spec 2 leader much of this race. Question is, how much does he want to try and fight him?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, interesting proposition, because he can save fuel right now, ever so slightly at least, behind Lero. So what is more worth to him? The fight for maybe even 4th place, or just stay behind and yeah, be able to save some fuel and get him with a strategy as we switch to the battle here for P2.
Oh, I think the real pace of McAreevy is being shown now, because Antonio Reese has run him down and very much threatening. Let's stay with this, but I want to report that Bertoni did respond to Ray pitting, and we'll cover whether or not he got out ahead of him in a bit. But we're on board with our 3rd place driver, Antonio Reese, seeing if he can jump up 1 more spot.
Yeah, and honestly, Gary McAreevy, lots of mistakes in the last 2 laps, so I wouldn't be surprised if Reese gets past him quite fast, and yeah, in quite some fashion too.
And just to update you, Stevie Ray did jump Bertoni with that pit stop. In fact, by a pretty big margin. Those two back out on track about 1.5 seconds. Oh, and Sadro again.
Yeah, and it is exactly what I was talking about. Just taking the chicane, the Fogarty chicane there, way too aggressive, and spins himself out, as you will now be able to see here on the replay. Just goes in, loses it completely, and yeah, spins it around, but no damage to his car.
Probably having PTSD flashbacks to last week, and when it comes to chicanes, Sadro and a lot of drivers. And Saturnino finds himself facing the wrong way on track. This is out of Melbourne.
Well, that was kind of coming a long way already for Flavio there. Always very sideways, cooking his rear tires, and now he overdid it. Now he spun out and lost quite a lot of positions there. Out of the turn, on the throttle, loses it, sloops it around. Actually, he slots it into reverse and goes off.
Well, he took a tow, and now he's exited the server, so Saturnino is your next DNF. A big slide there from McAreevy, offering a chance for Reese to poke his nose in, but thinks better of it at Coppice. Back onto the Starkey straight. Reese playing a bit of a patient game here. I think he could have pushed the issue if he wanted to.
Behind them, also have to report, behind them, Jason Perry, I think he elected to start pushing on Leiro here as he's getting closer and closer to the rear of him, dragging Gorka Ituarte with him. So that might also get interesting very soon.
Gorka's got his popcorn and his soda ready, and he is looking to watch the show with these two up ahead, right on board with the number 41. Perry just riding right in the tire tracks, mirroring everything that Alejandro Leiro does. Around Goddard's off the corner. Leiro looking strong, and in fact, quite a bit stronger than Perry, who loses a bit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tow there between the two. One time Jason is faster, next time we have Alejandro being faster, so yeah, it's quite interesting. Also, McAreevy is starting to get a little bit away from Antonio Reese ahead of them.
Well, that's good news for McAreevy to finally find his legs. I'm sure he was not happy being under threat by the 77 for that long. We're almost halfway through the race. We keep talking about the Spec 2 lead. Well, Spec 2 second place is all the way back in 11th. Dominic Bureau currently in a sandwich of Spec 1 drivers.
Doherty's in 9th ahead of him.
Oh, excuse me.
Doherty! Whoa! Hold it together! Oh, he spins out there.
Now Dominic is in second place. Thank you, Dominic.
Not only that, but he's also now in the top 10 there with the mistake from Edward Doherty. As we go on board with him now in the replay, you will be able to see old Hairpin. He just takes it way too wide there over the bumps, loses it the first time, and then tries to catch it and just isn't able to chase it.
It always struck me as such a strange name for that corner, especially when I go back and look at the track maps. It never looked like a hairpin.
No, it never was.
Oh, and as we take a look at another replay, it looks like Perry finally manages to get by Leiro. That promotes him to fourth.
Yeah, a bit of a mistake there from Leiro. Bit too aggressive over the S there once again. For the third time that we saw someone going a bit too aggressive there, and then through Melbourne. Easy pass there because of the way too wide line for Leiro, who probably tried to cut back in, but then had Ituarte on his inside, so wasn't able to put that plan into reality.
Still got Gorka running behind both of them in that number 41, and I think we're getting a few more drivers into the pits. Doherty is in. Looks like Bob Kern is the red and white car that you see coming towards his stall. Boy, that is a bumpy pit lane.
Yeah. It's downhill, and they have leveled out the pit boxes, so you always have a bit of a step down to the next pit box there. Can actually be a bit of a problem when you put a bit too much throttle into the car.
And did we have a problem with Stevie Ray? He was our highest pitter. Now, we've had a few cars pit since then. Checking to see if he had some sort of issue.
Yes. Out of
he did.
Melbourne. Out of Melbourne, just looped it around.
Might be a little bit back. We're seeing if we could dig this one up. Here we go. Yep, right here. Self-made error from the number 11. Not even really pressure from behind, just in too deep. Around she goes.
That's all she needed there. And Alejandro Leiro, he just elected to drive into pit lane, pitting
Gorka
from
follows him.
5th position. Sorry, 6th.
Gorka goes with That lapped car behind them, the dark car of Matt Solblum, who's the last car running right now, actually. So I think this should hand it over to Leiro once he comes out. Oh no, Gorka Iterati jumps him. Gorka manages to get a shorter stop by 2 seconds.
Now the question there is, was that enough fuel for Gorka, or did he just do an oopsie?
We'll find out in about 17 minutes time. So Gorka Iterati returns in the top 10 even, with a phenomenal race out here today. Potentially looking at a podium if he could just get up a little bit higher. It's mostly been Gaspers, McAreevy, and Reese who have been dominating those spots.
Well, more problems for Leiro as he has to fight against the side there on your screens. Just gets past now. So he is now in 12th position. 13th position. Has 12th position Jim McGill right ahead of him.
And Bradshaw as well. So if he could just get a little more speed, there could be some positions on hand. But those two do have to pit still.
Talking about pits, David Gaspers just elected to pit himself. That
McAreevy stays out.
To exactly McAreevy.
Reese does as well. Jason Perry stays out. Lindoff, who's been a little bit anonymous this race ever since the start. Number 8 going to jump up to the top 4 now that Gaspers is pitted. He has yet to take his stop. Yeah, nobody joining our leader in the top 10 except Tabor, it looks like.
Yes, Tabor did join him there. James Tabor and Chris Murakami also pitted now.
Finally getting a few more takers. Don't have too many more laps if that 13-minute mark that we saw from Steve Ray is the farthest you can go. McGill also takes his number 42 in. Does he have a Ferrari mark on that car? Or is that... Oh, actually, no, that might be a shield of a family... what's it called? Excuse me, my mind is blanking. Anyways, we'll go back to that later.
Yeah.
Antonio Rees right now, currently running in second behind McAreevy due to the pit stop from David Gaspers. And that, as we mentioned, promoted Jason Perry up into third, but Perry a whole 8 seconds behind them, right on board with Rees now. Coming up to the pit entry, do they respond? Neither of them do. Interesting. Now,
this is starting to get interesting between Gary and Antonio, because they're just driving out. I think Antonio at this point, he's just doing what the leader does right now, keeping a close eye to his competitor for P2, because I think unless David makes a mistake, he is out of reach for these two.
I think the word I was looking for was family crest. Possibly. Yeah. Dominic Bureau, the Canadian, brings his car in. Where is he going to come out? He's joined by the likes of Bradshaw. Bradshaw in, Bureau in and out. Where is he going to return on track? Dion goes by and in 11th for the 208. Still a lot of cars yet to come in. Jeff Cantor pits, Fred Desai pits, Ian Wilson. But we're waiting on McAreevy, Reese, Perry, Lindoff, Sadro, Gradwell, and Dion.
Yeah, the top 5, they still have to pit. Then we have David Gaspers, and then we have, as you said, Gradwell and Dion.
A little bit of a... was that an attempt at a move from Antonio Reese there through Melbourne? It almost looked like it. He had his nose in, or maybe McAreevy just went wide. Do they pit
I think
time?
I think that was more Gary going wide than Reese trying to make an overtake there. You can have a few different lines through Melbourne, and they're all going to be pretty much as fast.
All right, Perry pits. And is he followed by Lindoff? No, he is not. He is. Lindoff is coming in. Sadro is not. Gasper is going to continue to climb up the field as more and more cars ahead of him head into the pits. This promotes him back to fourth. He should re-inherit the lead as far as we can tell. 12.7 seconds stop, not outrageously short or long. Dion apologizing for something. I'm not sure what happened.
I am not sure either because he didn't touch anyone.
But Dominic Bureau had a problem, though. Spun in front of a bunch of cars coming through the Melbourne hairpin. In fact, are those all for position? Yes, they are.
I think I know what happened there. I think Dion apologized for maybe jump scaring Bureau because Bureau spun right behind Dion there.
And those cars that strung by, that is Elson, Tabor, Bertoni, Ray, and Shaw, all for position. Absolute freight train of cars. That's got to be frustrating to see.
Good awareness, though, by Dominic as he floored the car to get out of the way of the oncoming traffic there.
Oh, we just had contact between Tabor and Elson. Tabor gets shoved off track at McLean's and loses a bunch of spots. He's still struggling to get it going.
Yeah, he looped it around now. Very unsafe re-entrance from him there.
I'm not sure if he even had control. I don't think it was an attempt at re-entry. Watch from the 21's perspective.
It looked like the inside car there of Steve Elson was sliding a little bit towards, or he was sliding a little bit, and that made him move a little bit to the left there. So it's hard to put any blame towards anyone here.
Yeah, that's sort of a racing incident. Sadro, our last pitter in, along with, I believe, Gradwell. Yep, Gradwell is in. So that's everybody in and out. 10 minutes left to go. With strategy having settled itself, let's go through your order. Oh,
just one second. Yeah, interestingly, we saw Perry and Leiro fight all the time, but through pit stops, Hendrik Lindoff did catch up to the two guys, and he's now right behind the bumper of his teammate.
Ooh, could see some team tactics there to gang up on Jason Perry. But your leader right now is David Gaspers, and since the pit stops, it hasn't been a monstrous gap that he put on Jerry McAreevy, who he was leading before, but it's still significant enough that David is looking like he will not lose this championship today. In fact, he will clinch it. 2 seconds back to McAreevy. There you can see P2, who has stretched away. What happened to Reese here in the pit stops? Looks like it. Well, interestingly, Reese much slower down the lane, but same in the stall. Not sure what happened to the 77, but apparently needs to work on his pit lane speed because he lost a chunk of time. He's now in third, way ahead of fourth place. Gorka Iturrate, about 6-7 seconds between those two, separating the podium. And then you've got the top five rounded out by Jason Perry, followed very closely, in fact, threatened right now, Steph, by these two.
Yeah, and he really has to be careful because one goes by, the second one quite easily could also go by. And I had a quick look at Antonio Reese, and he was slowed because he slowed down at the very first line at the pit entrance, which is quite a bit further up the road than where you actually have to get in onto pit speed. And he also missed his pit stall by a little bit, had to back up. So that explains the loss in pit road compared to Gary McAreevy.
So always got to work on your pit stall entry, know exactly where to brake. Another one of those things that you've got to practice. But this is the battle that we're enjoying now. Jason Perry being hounded by Leroy and Lindoff. Lindoff dropping back just slightly as they reach McLean's. Up and over the crest, all the cars sliding off the apex. Nobody off track though. This is a battle for a top 5 essentially here.
Yes, and it starts to look like that Lindoff is not 100% able to go the speed of the 2 cars ahead of, as he has to drop off ever so slightly. But a way better Fogarty S allows him to get back up to the bumper of his teammate there.
Almost wonder if it was a bad run through Fogarty for Leroy, because Perry stretched away from Leroy through there. Now we were riding on board with Perry for a moment, looking back at the 2. And again, Lindoff is currently second in the championship. And he will hold on to that. It was only 2 points ahead from Sadro, but Sadro's problems today has sent him back to 8th place, meaning he's going to have to work even harder to try to move himself up into second on the last round. If things stand where they are, that is. Oh, great run here.
What was that from Perry, though?
I'm not sure, but he's going to be on the outside once they hit the old hairpin. Leroy seeing a defensive move from Jason Perry. Is that enough to give him the speed? I think it might. His teammate might be able to follow him through as they almost bang wheels coming up the hill towards McLean's. He's got a nose ahead, but he's going to be on the outside through this right-hander. And Perry carries the speed. I think they did come together there. It was awful close. Still the speed coming back in favor of Leroy. Can't outbreak him into Coppice as he settles back into line. Looks for the over-under. He's going to have the momentum coming onto the Starkey Straight. Is this going to be enough? He almost squeezes him over, Steph.
Yeah, Lindoff tried to also take an under there on Perry, and Leroy didn't work out. Got cut off as Gorky Dorado spins ahead of them.
And that's positions that's being lost by Edirade. We're going to look at the replay, and after that, we'll have to...
Oh! Incident there between Perry and...
Yep. Yeah, we just saw the spin. Now we're going to watch the contact between Perry and Lindoff.
Yeah, Perry gets pressured there by Lindoff, and Perry just overshoots his braking point massively and slams into the side there of Leroy.
Excuse me, yeah, it was Leroy that he ran into, not Lindoff. We're going to watch JP. Maybe just being offline, he misjudged his marker?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oof. He saw it coming. He was trying to avoid him as best he could. Just sideswiped him. And that moves Perry down to 7th, Edirade down to 8th, and Leroy up to 4th, Lindoff to 5th.
Yeah, and the question is, how much damage does Leroy have on his car? Obviously, he has the teammate behind him of Henrik Lindoff.
That's a lot of damage that it looks like. Ooh, that is significant. Now, what that did is it slowed them up enough that Sadro is starting to gain, and this is bad news for Lindoff. Does Leroy maybe play the good teammate here, let Lindoff by and go defensive?
I don't know. It always depends on how they are. Are they communicating in the race? Do they have a bit of a mindset before the race? Obviously, yes, you have Lindoff in second, but you also have Leroy, who could enlarge his gap over second place quite a bit in the Spec 2 class. So I would probably think that they're gonna race it out as if they're not teammates.
We'll find out soon, because here comes Sadro, already rocked up to the back of the number 8 machine. And they've got 4 minutes left on the clock, so only a few laps that they have to hold off Sadro. And the reason that this is significant, if you're just joining us, Sadro's only 2 points behind Lindoff in the points championship. That change of positions could indeed swing Sadro up to P2 in the points fight. Still holding pace over Lindoff. I think whatever damage we're seeing on Leroy, it's not affecting him too much.
Also, don't forget, we're only about 3 minutes away from the checkered flag, so depending on where Gaspers is, we might only have 2 to 3 more laps remaining in this race.
That's a fair point. We looks like we're going to get 2 to go at the line. We're looking at Gaspers now. He's been holding position over McAreevy at about 2 seconds ever since the pit stops. So Jerry may have dropped off a little bit early in this race. I'm not sure if this is David maybe slowing it up and managing the gap, but the pace seems to have changed a little bit, and McAreevy is now at least keeping him honest. Ooh, a little bit of a move here. Defensive to the inside from Lindoff, trying to hold him off through the Fogarty chicane, and his teammate gets a horrible run through that corner. He's staying to the outside, letting him through. He knows the stakes as Lindoff stays defensive on Sadro down into Melbourne. Sadro can't quite get the car in there. Does try and overtake the likes of Leroy, but that also doesn't work. Up to Goddard's now, side by side with the teammates. Leroy comes back to the racing line, holds off Sadro. Behind them, Jason Perry and Gorka Iturrate also fighting for 7th place.
Yeah, and Leroy is right now side by side with Lindoff, so even though he has that massive damage to the right, it seems like it's not hampering him too much there as he gets a great run out of Redgate.
Oh, this could lose them both spots if they're not careful. They are fighting for position. Sadro in the popcorn spot, watching, hoping something runs down between both of them and sends them flying off the corner. Look at that over-under! My goodness, Leroy with a monster run, and unfortunately that hurts his teammate in the championship because Sadro is by Lindoff. Leroy timed that perfectly.
But now Sadro has the problem. He is behind the slower car, ever so slightly slower car of Leroy, but he is so much better through the turns that it is actually quite hard, as we saw in the example of Lindoff, to actually overtake Leroy. But a great run there for Sadro.
Oh, Sadro's gonna look to the inside. No defensive move from Leroy. Lets him through. We got a car off. That's Bob Kern. We don't need to go to that. And a better run off the corner. Leroy, as the white flag comes out, has been out-thinking everybody around him. Almost gets into the side of Sadro. Can't quite brake late enough. Looks to gun it off the corner yet again, but he can't carry the speed. What an incredible fight we're getting for 4th place here in the final laps of the penultimate round. Almost gets a shove from behind as Lindoff has to check up through Goddard's.
And now the interesting parts comes in. Will Lindoff get by Leroy? Will Leroy get by Sadro? Will Leroy just let Lindoff by? It all is all about the championship as Lindoff goes way wide.
Will jump to the leader when it's time to go there. He's about half a track ahead of these 3 cars. We ride on board with Leroy, looking up at Sadro. He's going to want this position back from what we've seen of them driving, but he's starting to lose touch. Sadro has got it underneath him now and has got a good defense. Going to take a big boost from both teammates to try and run the number 51 car down. Don't seem to be doing it at this point, so let's give a little love to our championship leader, David Gaspers. He's got 3 on the trot. He's going to make it 4. All he has to do is circle the final hairpin. The number 23 smoothly off the corner takes the win here at Donington Park.
And Lindoff is right now going side by side with his teammate of Leroy through Melbourne, as Gary McAreevy crosses the start-finish line there to take 2nd place home. And Lindoff, horrible run out of Melbourne.
Yep, his teammates got the legs over him, but he doesn't have the brakes as Lindoff tries to come back at him. Uses that long way around. It's going to be a drag race to the line, but a little bit of tires in the grass is going to deny Lindoff. That means Lero is going to manage to get 5th today. 7th place, Perry manages to keep Iterate at bay. Elson just ahead of Stevie Ray to the line for 9th. And then very close between Shaw and Bertoni. Look at this side-by-side battle between Bureau and Murakami. Murakami going to try that long way around that didn't quite work for Lindoff. Also, oh no, he keeps it on track and he keeps the speed up. Chris Murakami going to be able to manage 15th place. Last battle on the track is Jeff Kenner and Edgar Sancinelli. Really didn't see much of these two, but they're going to finish on the lead lap as we had 29 starters. I think, did we only have 23 finishers, or did we have lapped cars?
No, we have 26.
26 finishers. Not bad, actually. Oh, outbreaking himself, Sancinelli. Is he going to hand it over in the final corner, or can he get it back? Look at this.
And Bradshaw was on the outside there, out of fuel. You're able to see it on the top of your screen. And Edgar Sancinelli has to give way to Jeff Kent, who takes it at the line.
Wow, not much between them, less than a 1/10 of a second. We're going to go to break, though, as poor Bradshaw coasts across the line. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Donington Park with one round left. Unofficially, the championship is over here in the Weekend Warriors. David Gaspers took the win, and that was more than he needed to try and deny any opportunity for anyone else to overtake him in the points. Jerry McAreevy, however, with a little bit of a quiet drive to second place, had a little pressure from the likes of Antonio Rees for part of the race. Rees will round out your podium, the only driver on the podium that did not start there. Daniel Sadro manages a fourth place spot, just getting by the likes of Lero, our Spec 2 winner, who gets a top 5 today. Henrik Lindhoff, his teammate, who unfortunately lost second in the championship by battling with Sadro and letting him go. He finishes 6th. Jason Perry, 7th place after outbreaking himself and losing spots in Melbourne Hairpin. Gorka Iturrate just behind him in 8th, and Steven Elson in 9th. Stevie Ray, with his traditional early start, didn't gain any spots, or early pit stop, I should say, manages 10th.
Michael Shaw gaining 5 positions from 16th into 11th. Same thing for Andres Bertoni from 17th into 12th. James Tibor going the wrong way from 9th into 13th place. And Edward Doherty, your second place finisher in the Spec 2 class, starts in 14th, finishes in 14th. Chris Murakami gaining 7 positions from 22nd into 15th, right in front of Dominic Bureau, finishing in 16th. Jim McGill in 17th, Tom Gradwell from 25th into 18th, Fred Desai losing 1 position over his starting position from 18th into 19th, and John Dion rounding out your top 20.
Jeff Cantor finishes 21st, just barely ahead of Edgar Sanchinelli, who takes 22nd. Last car on the lead lap. Adam Bradshaw runs out of fuel and finishes 23rd. Ian Wilson, 24th. And it's Bob Kern in P25. Another lap down from Matt Solblum, 26th in the last car to see the checkered flag. Flavio Saturnino, a first DNF at 27th. Miroslav Jursak, 28th. And Mark Gehan, 29th. We have our winner ready to talk to, and now unofficially our champion for this season, David Gaspers, your 4th win in a row. Whatever issues you were having earlier in the season, you seem to have gotten on top of, because it has been win after win.
Yeah, the last few races were definitely going a lot better than a couple of races earlier in the season, but it also depended some bit of it on the track and who showed up as well.
Today here at Donington, you guys ran the GP version. In the past, we've seen you ran the national version. Do you have any preference between the two?
I prefer the national version. I don't really like hairpins.
I'm completely with you on that. Back-to-back hairpins to me are not usually that much fun. So with the pressure off next round, do you show up at Phillip Island? Do you let somebody else win? Do you continue the winning streak?
I try to win, but Phillip Island is usually one of my weakest tracks, and I'll be doing the 12-hour race on Sebring next week, so I don't think I will practice a lot.
Well, that'll certainly make things a little bit interesting out there. And, of course, that draft very heavy on the front stretch at Phillip Island. Regardless, congratulations not just on a win, but a championship, sir.
Thank you.
That was David Gaspers, our winner here today. Up next, we have our Spec 2 winner. I believe Steph is going to be speaking to Alejandro Lero.
Yeah, and from one unofficial champion to one nearly uncatchable Spec 2 leader, Alejandro Lero. Once again, a great race by you. Quite dramatic at the end there, with quite a battle between your teammate and Sadro. Talk us through the last stage of your race there.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was. I am really happy because I just had lots and lots of fun. And I didn't expect to be in this position because I was looking at the times during the week and it was like 1 second off. Terrible. And yeah, but it worked out pretty well today. So that's I'm real happy for that. The second stage, I was faster actually before I fueled the car. Then I had a little bit of a daughter attack, and Went in for the pits, and then just very good racing with Jason and Henrik and Daniel. It was really awesome.
Yeah, obviously with Jason Perry, and was also there for a bit until he made his mistake there. But yeah, just one more round remaining in the season at Phillip Island. How are you looking forward to that?
I'm looking forward to it because Phillip Island is one of my better tracks, I would say. I hope it's warm because I tend to do better when the track's warm. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see indeed. And yeah, hopefully we will be able to crown you the official champion of the Spec 2 class. Yeah, thanks for coming into the booth here, Leiro, Alejandro. And meanwhile, Joe Peak has caught up with Jerry McGreevy.
The perils of sim racing and children, I suppose. Jerry McAreevy hopefully didn't have to deal with that. He got second place today. Jerry, you held on to the back of David Gaspers for much of the early race, and then we saw an error, and it looked like he dropped off. Was he just simply faster than you today without the draft?
Hey guys, I don't know what happened at the start. The first half of the race, I just made so many errors, unforced. It was unbelievable. I don't know if I just couldn't settle down or what. It was a bit crazy. And once David broke the draft, that was it really.
And then later on in the race, after the pit stops, you came out about 2 seconds behind, and it seemed like that gap didn't increase that much. Do you think maybe he was managing the gap, or did you find something else in the car?
I think we were both pretty even on pace. I'm a bit quicker through the old hairpin, and David's quicker through the Fogarty S's, and it kind of balances itself out through the lap. But to be honest, I'm lucky. I'm just happy to come away with second place, to be honest, after all the mistakes.
Absolutely. Obviously, been a little bit of, I wouldn't say an up and down season, but inconsistent, and you missed a couple races. Do you plan to come back next season and attempt to make sure and attend better and see if you could challenge for the championship? Because you certainly are one of the faster drivers.
Oh yeah, for sure. Certainly work permitting, I'll certainly be there. I can't guarantee I'll be there for every race, but the ones that I can make, yeah, I certainly look forward.
Such a shame, as that one of the other perils of sim racing, keeping drivers from sometimes be performing as well as they could. Thanks for joining us, Jerry, and congratulations on second.
Cheers, guys.
Jerry McAreevy, number 67, P2 today. Finally, we're going to wrap up with Steph talking to our third place finisher, Antonio Reese.
Yeah, and Antonio, your first stint, quite impressive run there, challenging for that second position. How did the car feel in your hands today?
Hello, good night or good morning. I don't know. For me, it's good night. And anyway, thanks to you and to the organization of the race and to all the guys that participate on the. Sorry for my English. I have some difficulty to speak English, but I will try my best. Yeah, the car I use a setup from Gary McAreevy, the guy that finished in second place today. I use his setup from Laguna Seca. He did share that setup, and then I feel very confident with that setup somehow.
Yeah, quite an interesting choice there, Laguna Seca and Donington. There have some elevation change, but I wouldn't have guessed that is a good setup for here. Keeping that in mind going forward. But yeah, your pit entrance and pit stop there, quite a bit of a mess up there. Talk us through what happened there.
Anyway, I didn't train enough to that entrance and the exit of the pits, and I didn't expect when you go to the inside line that kind of a jumping. The car was jumping like crazy, and I couldn't brake, and then I have to reverse to get the car. Yeah, was that.
Always catches out how slanted this pit lane is, and they leveled out the pit stalls themselves. So yeah, quite some bumps in there. But going forward to the last round of the season at Phillip Island, how are you looking forward to that track? Does it suit you?
I like the track. I usually have good races there. I hope I get some good position. We will see.
Well, we will be interested in seeing how you will be able to perform in Phillip Island. That was Antonio Rees, your third place finisher of today. And Joe, we saw quite some awesome racing. We saw one unofficial champion. We saw quite some great battles throughout the race, throughout the pack. And yeah, Donington always delivers.
I feel like this is a track that should show up on a few more schedules. It tends to put on some interesting races. But we want to close up today with a big thank you to Stevie Ray and their Weekend Warriors, as always. Also to our sponsor for this season, Southeast Spec Racer. You can find them at southeastspecracer.com. They are located in Daytona Beach, Florida, and can help you if you want to go racing for real in these Spec Racer Fords. Also, a thank you goes out to Inspectoride, that free software that you can check out if you have to do car inspections. That includes both small and large groups of cars. That is inspectoride.com/iRacing. That download is free for a trial of the software. Also, a thank you goes out to IESN for bringing us onto the network for this series. If you'd like to subscribe, all you got to do is click the big red button that says subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde to provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Steph, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. The final round is going to take place over in Australia. That'll be Phillip Island, Sunday, March 3rd at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.